she comes in talking about like, oh, Urena really loves Lutan and she thinks I love him too. And a camera cuts over to Data. And Data pulls up a memory from last week when he and Tasha smashed, and he says, most interesting. Do you love him? I mean, because I really thought we had something going.
She's like, don't be stupid. No, she says, of course I don't.
Data, I'm only going to tell you this just once. It never happened.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Welcome aboard.
Jean-Luc Picard to the Starship Enterprise.
You want to review your rapid progress?
That nonsense is centuries behind us. To the Starship Enterprise.
Oh, yeah?
That is enough, damn it!
Tempo, mon capitan.
To the Starship Enterprise.
You can't deny that you're still a dangerous, savage child race.
Of the planet Earth.
You just don't get it, do you, Jean-Luc? That is the exploration that awaits you. Not mapping stars and studying nebula, but charting the unknown possibilities of existence.
Nuchnak! And welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a comedy Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And I want to tell you about a recent guest appearance that I did on another podcast that I think everybody should go listen to. My good friends Mike and Kyle over at the Gayish podcast. Kyle.
Cool.
Mike is traveling. He's traveling a lot. In fact, he's on our list to get on this show, and he's always fucking traveling. He's in Japan, I believe, still. So he's traveling around the world. And in his absence, Kyle has been having on guest hosts to come in and fill in for Mike while he's gone. And so he had me on recently, the couple weeks ago. This episode came out now, I guess, at the time this one releases. And we talked about humanism. And so
what is humanism, Sarah?
What is humanism? We talk about it on the show. You should go listen to it. They approach different topics through the lens of gayishness and the idea that, you know, stereotypes are kind of stupid in a lot of cases, but also they come from something. There's, you know, stereotypes are rooted in something that's real. And so they pick topics and kind of break them down and talk about the stereotypes and how it applies to the queer community. And so this time we talked about, I've been on before. They keep calling me back, so I must be doing okay.
Hey, that's awesome.
And this time we talked about humanism and how gay it might or might not be. And there is a fantastic poem. I'll briefly tell a bit of the story, but you should go listen to the rest of it. There's a poem that was published in a UK gay magazine back in the 70s. And it was a story about a Roman centurion and his love for the recently crucified Messiah. And it is graphic. And it is his love for the recently crucified Jesus. And so it is very graphic. And one of the right-wing nutjob people in the UK who created an organization to like a media watch kind of organization, right? Saw this particular poem, thought it was blasphemous, took them to court and won, which is why we should get rid of blasphemy laws, because that was stupid.
So when did this happen, though?
In the 70s.
Oh, and so in the 70s, the court thing happened.
Yeah.
But this poem has been around for how long?
Oh, it was
since the 70s?
It was contemporary. Yeah. It was a poem written in the 70s. Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to read it? Because I'm dying to hear some of it.
I will read it for our patrons. How about that?
Okay.
So put a pin in that and join patreon.com/humanistrek if you want to hear my sexy reading of this raunchy ass poem. So it's this gay love between the centurion and the Jesus, and this woman took him to court, won. This was blasphemy against her savior, blah, 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 whatever. But one of the things that she said publicly during all of this was that she thought that there was, you know, this gay humanistic movement This gay humanistic movement that was responsible for all the backlash she received for taking them to court. So she took them to court and everybody was like, this is fucking stupid. You're an idiot. And she blamed that on a gay humanistic movement. And so some gays got together and were like, well, that's not a thing, but it ought to be. And so they formed the UK Gay Humanist Group that's still, kicking today. And so I thought that was an interesting, way that this organization was formed out of this stupid blasphemy lawsuit.
That's hilarious. Well, yeah, can't wait to hear the poem.
And we'll talk about this later, because one of the things that this episode of Star Trek The Next Generation made me think about is blasphemy laws. What are some of the stupid codes, social codes that we still hang on to today that are in our way, that are wrong, that are blocking progress? And a code of honor like this one in this ridiculous episode would qualify for that. So let's dig into Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 4, Code of Honor.
Commander, you'll soon be getting an intruder alert.
What? I've got something, sir.
Intruder alert, sir.
It's an old-style starship, sir. Constellation class, heading this way under impulse com.
Number 1, kindly take charge of our guests until we have time to decide what we're going to do with them. Sir, number 1, keep them out of my way.
So the Enterprise is on a DoorDash mission this week, picking up a vaccine from Ligon 2, which of course is the only place in the whole universe where we can find this one vaccine. Allie, remember vaccines? Remember when we used to trust medical science? You remember that? Remember?
Oh, I remember. Chewbacca? Yeah. Remember Edix? Remember? Hey, remember Ghostbusters? Oh, I remember. Remember Slimer?
How could someone think these things are bugs?
Yeah, when we had to get measles and rubella and all of those on a little card you fill out before you could even fucking step foot into school. Yeah, I remember.
Anyway, there's a xenopolychlamydia plague ravaging Styrus 4.
Attention. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with xenopolychlamydia, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xenopolychlamydia is a rare sexually transmitted disease linked to exposure in the Orion system. Traveling to the Orion system may put you at risk. Please don't wait. Call 1-920-550-TREK. A free legal consultation and financial information packet. Xenopolychlamydia patients, call now. Again, that number is 920-550-TREK.
And they've got to get this vaccine delivered before people start injecting bleach up their asses. This is a classic TOS setup, right? This is another tick in the column of my spreadsheet arguing that Season 1 TNG is basically Season 4 TOS.
It does. It covers all of the major big plot items that TOS did. So the D zooms into standard orbit around that Ligon 2. And this is supposed to be a friendly visit to the Ligonians and possibly the beginnings of treaty negotiation. So Riker, Picard, and Troy. Are we calling them PRT?
Oh.
Because we called the other guys KSM.
But is it Troy? Or who's the third? Is it, well, in the chain of command, it would be Picard, Riker, Data. But I think about who's sitting at the half circle. It's always Riker, Picard, and Troy. Yeah.
I don't know. But then but the thing is so many, it's TOS only had those. It was
I don't think this trick, what's it called? It's called a
triumvirate.
Triumvirate. Yes, that works.
So today it's PRT just for this one. Riker, Picard, and Troy are heading to the cargo bay where Tasha is standing by to beam aboard the Ligonian welcome party.
In the turbo lift, we learn that these people are humanoid and their history is remarkably similar to Earth's. They're a proud people. So we have to negotiate with these people to get the vaccine, and the Ligonians insist on using their own transporter, and they beam aboard the cargo bay. And I think this scene was put in the cargo bay specifically because of this stupid red carpet bit.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So the attendants beam in and they roll out a red carpet before beaming in their leader. And that would not have worked in the transporter room because the platform is elevated. I think that's the only reason there is to be in the cargo bay.
So the first 5 people beam in. And these guys are in turbans, harem pants, and then some sort of crisscross fabric, just enough to cover their chest. And then one of the guys brings out a roll of carpet, kicks it out, stands back, and then the main, what do you call it?
The HBIC.
The HNIC, but HBIC rolls in.
I guess it'd be the HLIC, the head Ligonian in charge.
Yeah. The HLIC beams in, and he's, wearing similar clothes, but just more grandiose gold and all that. And
oh, is that what happened to that fabric that Beverly picked up on Farpoint?
This scene is straight out of Coming to America.
Mm-hmm.
When King Zamunda is coming to New York and he's got his entourage, and then except his were women, and they were like throwing petals, rose petals, for him to step on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what is this shit I'm watching? But, yeah.
I haven't seen that in a million years, but I'm going to go back and watch it now. Because it's easily 20 years since I've seen that.
This is straight out of Coming to America.
So Luton beams in, he and Picard exchange a greeting, and Picard introduces his peeps, which include Chief of Security and recent recipient of a data download. Oh my.
Oh my God.
Tasha Yar, and Luton is very interested in Tasha.
Well, he's also shocked he's like, a woman, your Chief of Security? And I'm like, oh, this is so like TOS. Really? Yep. Have we not? But here we are.
Well, and stay tuned because next week we're going to do it again. This, oh my God, you're women. They work with you and they wear clothes. And yeah. There's a lot of that going on.
Just in a different way.
Luton is played by Jesse Lawrence Ferguson, who did a bunch of classic TV. Starsky and Hutch, Hill Street Blues, The A-Team, St. Elsewhere.
I know him from, what's the movie? Was it Boys of the Hood? It was one of the movies by Spike Lee, I think, or John Singleton back in the day.
It was Boys in the Hood, but I couldn't remember which one of these guys it was.
It's the main guy, I think. I haven't watched that in ages either.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah, he played a dirty cop in Boys in the Hood. Yeah.
I thought so.
Luton introduces his number one, Hagon, played by James Lewis Watkins, a.k.a. Julian Christopher, who also had a lot of guest star roles. Bob Newhart, Hill Street Blues, Doogie Howser, M.D.
Oh, no, I don't remember him.
Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, wow.
And he apparently comes back for an off-camera voice part in a Deep Space Nine episode.
Oh, cool.
So Hagon approaches Picard with a vial of vaccine, and in some weird protect the king from poison in his goblet move, Tasha jumps in front of, she's jumping in front of a bullet or something. And it's like, no, I must inspect this first to ensure its safety. Okay.
She steps in front of Hagon and he's like, out of my way, woman, because that just tells us their attitude towards women.
Mm-hmm.
And she fucking doesn't move on him and flips his ass. And how embarrassing.
First of all, yeah. But also, that gets Luton's attention again.
Oh, man, he's got a fucking hard-on for that.
While Tasha inspects this little box, Troy cautions that they not apologize for Tasha kicking ass because the Ligonians would take it as a sign of weakness. So Picard accepts the gift of the vaccine sample and invites the Ligonians to dinner. And as the Starfleets leave, Hagon asks forgiveness, but Luton is singularly focused on Tasha Yar. He's like, she may be exactly what I have needed.
I'm King Jaffe Joffer, ruler of Zamunda.
Yeah, we'll have a seat. Chair number 2 will be ready in a second.
This is great. Data has just gotten back from shopping from an antique store, and he's carrying this ceramic horse into the conference room and sets it down in front of Picard.
I literally wrote, Data brings in some bullshit ceramic horse. I'm like, I see that without sound, and you're thinking, what is this?
What the fuck? Yeah. Somebody just ran down to the prop room and grabbed something interesting looking.
And Picard says, so it's their gift to Lutan. And Picard says it's from China's Sung Dynasty, 13th century. And I'm like, really? Did they make something that shitty? Like I was expecting like a really nice vase, you know. But yeah, apparently it's a culture that is admired on Earth, but it's also similar to Lutan's own culture.
They start sprinkling in some of this, and we're going to talk about this so much because this is what I love about Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
The humor. They lean into the humor in a way that TOS tried to do sometimes, and very rarely I felt was successful in the way that TNG was. And that's when Picard says, this beautiful ceramic horse from the antique store is from China's Sung Dynasty, 14th century. And Data goes, actually, it's the 13th century. And we all have a good laugh.
Spock would have been the one to do that or to correct Kirk.
For sure. That. Yep. We learn here that the Ligonians kind of keep to themselves. They're a little wary of outsiders. And despite their lack of technological development, they seem to have something of a great importance that the Federation does not. This vaccine. And I thought in this moment, come on, you mean to tell me Dr. Crusher isn't down in sickbay replicating that vaccine right now? Put a
well,
pin
they
in
covered
that.
that too. Yeah, they covered that too. So the disease they have is called the Anchiles fever. And Lieutenant says, you know, as long as you respect our customs, we can be friends and we'll share because sharing is caring. After that whole gift exchange, white elephant exchange, Lieutenant says, I feel pretty good. I don't need my guards here. You know, we're all friends here. So he sends them on and he, you know, says, I'll be on in a minute. But he and Hagen stay back and he asks for a tour of their wondrous holodeck because he's heard lots of cool things about them. He's heard that that's where they train Starfleet officers. And so Picard launches in, yeah, Commander Riker, perhaps you and Troy can demonstrate and they'll show you all about the holodeck. But he's like, oh no, I would like your security officer to show me.
Riker's like, yeah, we noticed you're intrigued with a woman security chief, but that's just how we roll in the Star Trek future. Women are equals. And Hagon says, with us, it is the woman's duty to own the land and the men's duty to protect and rule it, which Troy mentions is similar to human history. When were women the owners of any land?
Never. I don't know. She said similar, but I have no idea what the hell she meant by that.
Yeah. If she's talking about all of this, like this ritualistic honor and all of that bullshit, okay, sure. But not this split equality thing that they're trying to play. So, but Tasha volunteers as a sign of respect. So we've built up this whole thing of like, okay, we're in this people's culture and we have to play by their rules. And so if this is the kind of stuff that they respect, then we're going to lay it on thick. And she's like, all right, let's go down to the holodeck.
And I mean, this is her wheelhouse anyway of combat and Starfleet training. So she's all in. And at this point, everybody's still friends. We don't know anything.
And they have this set, so we better put it to use. We built the damn thing. So they go into the holodeck, and this was good fun. Tasha walks over towards the wall, and a gi appears, and she puts that on and calls up a program, Aikido 1, and a blue mat appears on the floor along with an opponent to spar with. And Lutan shook. He's like, holy shit, you just fabricated a whole person out of nothing, and it doesn't have a soul?
Tasha explains it's just an image. It's not really a real person. Everything it does is controlled by computer. And then she goes over and she asks the image, who am I? And he doesn't respond. He's just he's in that like video game mode of,
yeah.
You know, that whole.
Yeah. What's that called? That's the
Mortal Kombat. It's the choosing your player one mode.
It's like,
your player.
It's player's character screen. That's what it is. Yeah.
So select your skin. Yeah. So she's like, but it'll feel real when it hits you. So then she starts and they do a couple of Aikido moves and dances around and sparring, and she flips the holodeck guy.
Can we talk about how much of a fucking show off this stunt guy was?
Oh, which one?
She
The
flips
one
him.
playing Tasha, or the Aikido guy?
No, the Aikido guy. As he thrown onto his back and he just jumps up like fucking ninja moves. That was great.
Of course,
it was great.
Because holograms can't be hurt. But Hagon is like, this can't possibly be. A force like this cannot possibly come from an image. And then Lutan's like, well, then you show me. And of course, poor Hagon, he's already gotten thrown around by Tasha. So now Lutan is volunteering him to get thrown around by a hologram. And sure enough, he does get thrown. And Lutan, after that demonstration, Lutan is still pretty intrigued. And he thinks this is enlightening.
One thing Tasha does say, she clears the program and explains that it's designed to learn how you fight, and eventually it will learn how to defeat you. Even the extraordinary Lieutenant Yar. And
then the creepiness comes in where Lutan's like, your skills impress me. I like you.
Yeah. What's the drink you order at the bar to get help from the bartender? Because that's kind of where she's at right now.
Oh, yeah. She's about to get roofied.
And for some reason, we're using the cargo bay playset instead of the transporter again as Lutan and Hagon depart.
No idea. Maybe that set wasn't available at that because it's the three of them. I have no idea.
No. And this has been a good start to this new relationship, but not for long, because as Lutan shakes Tasha's hand, he pulls her against his side and they beam away with her. Red alert!
I could create 2, even 3, but really 1 is enough.
Oh my.
So can we address the elephant in the room here?
Oh, please.
About all the everybody's black in the Ligonians.
Yes.
And like I did this in TOS too. Like anytime there was a person of color actor, I'm always attuned to it and particularly sensitive to how they use that character, portray the character, whatever. And I had to ask myself, if I'm bothered by it, I have to ask myself, why am I bothered by it? Mm-hmm. Is it justified? Is this all in my head? Uh-huh. But this whole thing was just ick to me. Why did they have to make everybody black?
Yep.
I think, and from the Ligonians, like if there had been multiple races, like multicultural, I wouldn't have bothered me so much. But this bugged the shit out of me.
Right. Were they? Was there a point to this? I mean,
right. They made a choice to make this a black race, to make this a person of color race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if the intent was just to distinguish them as different, then that says a couple of things. That says, why aren't there more black people on the Enterprise? Mm-hmm. Why is black such a different to separate the two peoples? That's a problem.
The whole tribal thing.
Yep.
Making it seem like African tribal thing. And then I don't know if I should go this deep right now because this bothered me because, okay, so he had this fascination with Tasha. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know the whole history behind society's back in the days fear of black men taking white women.
Yes.
And I was like, wait a minute. And he was just unreasonably fascinated with her. And then he kidnapped her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, y'all got to stop this. But
you have to ask, like, okay, are they using this as a trope? Is this I want to say subconscious thing that just happened as it was developing, or are they trying to say something about it? And how wrong it was in our culture? I don't know. I'm like you. I leave this feeling all kinds of weird.
Yeah, I was feeling ick, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this. Is it in my mind? Is it all in my mind? Anyway.
This scene is a really great example of what we've talked about before, this being a more egalitarian structure where everybody's input is valued because we go around the bridge here, each adding a bit of context for Picard to use in his decision-making. As Picard arrives on the bridge, Riker is at Tasha's station. Shields are up, photon torpedoes locked and loaded. And first, Picard tries to make a phone call to Lutan. He's like, Lutan, that wasn't very nice. And they shoot off a round of photon torpedoes set to blast in the atmosphere, sort of a shot across the bow kind of move, a warning shot across the bow. And then we talk about the Ligonians' transporter technology and how the Starfleets don't understand how it works, so they can't trace it. And Data gets another fun comedic moment here. He says, it reads similar to early Starfleet efforts, but uses the Hegelian shift to convert matter and energy in different, and he turns and he's like, actually, that's not important right now. I should probably shut up.
Yeah, he is very chatty in these first few episodes of TNG.
So Picard sends another message. Lutan, I thought we were friends, dude. You basically committed an act of war, and you've seen our capabilities. We can kick your ass. Troy says she doesn't think they'll harm Tasha. They're mostly curious, except all the males want to bang her, of course. And in addition to that, Lutan was also feeling avarice or ambition. So there's something extra going on with that guy.
Data jumps in and says, they reviewed this group of people. And the one thing about them is, in their studies of them, is that their respect for patients. So that means they're going to just wait it out for a little bit and to see how long they can wait it out.
Captain's log, a full day passes, and now they're doing some scans, testing to see whether or not the Ligonians are able to detect those scans. And they believe they've found Lutan's compound. Here we go again. How did the sensors work? Can we just scan for Tasha's life signs? There's one human on a planet full of not humans. Shouldn't that be easy to see?
She's got her communicator badge. They don't have a lot of technology, but they have transporter technology.
How does this all work? Yeah.
I don't know. Crusher decides to pay Picard a visit. So she comes up through the turbolift through the bridge, and she leaves Wesley hiding in the turbolift. Poor little guy.
Have the boy sent to the bridge, number 1.
My name is Wesley.
It's Wesley I wanted to speak to you about. The boy?
My name is Wesley.
He seems to have developed some sort of special attachment to the boy.
My name is Wesley.
Did he say Wesley? The boy?
My name is Wesley.
What is the boy doing here?
My name is Wesley.
The boy. Where is he, please?
My name is Wesley.
The boy? He's outside.
My name is Wesley.
Wesley Crusher, report to the bridge. On the double.
And then she heads to the ready room. She shares some unfortunate news about the vaccine, and it turns out that the vaccine has become unstable when she tries to replicate it. So now they're going to need more than a sample. They're going to actually need the real thing from the planet, and they're going to need a whole lot more.
She really tries to set the tone here for like how dire the situation with the xenopolychlamydia is. But I have notes, and we'll talk about that later.
In the meantime, she decides to ask, she asks him, "Can I talk about my son Wesley?" And he kind of grumbles. He's like, "Oh, all right." And she just mentions, how interested he is in starships and how smart he is. Speaking as a mother, of course. And Picard's like, "Well, of course you're speaking as a mother." Well, she's like, "Well, he's on the turbo lift. Remember you ordered him to stay off the bridge?"
He's been in the turbo lift the whole time we've been in here talking. Just standing in the turbo lift, holding the door.
Bless his heart. He's like hiding actually behind the little corner.
So they go out onto the bridge. Another great comedic scene here. Riker's like, "Don't worry, I'll get rid of him." And when Picard says no, Riker says no. And then he suggests Wesley sit at ops next to Geordi. And both Wes and Geordi are like, "Say what?" And Picard says, "Is the whole ship deaf?" Oh, good fun.
Yeah. But he lets him sit down temporarily and just he's just trying to humor his mother. Probably because he wants some of that crusher.
He wants crushed.
Oh my.
We got to have a drop for Picard getting crushed. Riker, Troy, and Data have just returned to the bridge to pass along some more stuff they've learned from the Encyclopedia Britannica Volume L about the Ligonians. They live by strict codes of honor, and Data likens what Lutan did to what some outdated terminology for indigenous Americans once did, called counting coup. And Data's like, Oh ho ho, that is French, mon ami. And Picard just crosses his arms and stares at him in French.
And he says that French was an obscure language, and Picard takes immediate offense to that. He says the French language was for centuries on Earth represented civilization. Data was gonna argue, but Riker just says, Data, shut the fuck up.
These are the interpersonal relationships that are fun and funny that really make the show what it is.
Right, and it's 3 lines, and then then they keep trucking. They don't make a whole thing out of it.
Yep.
It's just showing everybody's personality.
Counting coup, Data says, could be touching an enemy with a stick during battle or taking something from an enemy and escaping, which is what Lutan seems to have done here. And Lutan thinks himself extremely heroic for this action that he's taken.
It's a silly game, to be honest. It's like, oh, look what I did.
Got your nose.
Yep. And you do that. It's more heroic when the person that you're taking something from is way more powerful than you.
They're still not entirely sure why Tasha was the target, but the phone rings and Lutan's on screen. And at first, Picard is showing strength, being kind of demanding. But the senior officers who have been studying this culture down in the library suggest that according to this titular code of honor, the proper thing for Picard to do here is politely ask for Tasha back. So Lutan invites them to beam down, and they will return her.
Why don't you sit at ops next to Lieutenant LaForge?
Sir? Sir?
Is the whole ship deaf?
Remember when Bill first joined this crew and Picard read him the riot act about not letting Captain DeSoto of the Hood
Hood out.
beam down for an away mission? Riker's kind of a stickler about that. Well, Troy and Data gang up on him because this time it's probably best if the captain does beam down to lead the away team because of this people's code of honor where a visiting leader becomes an honored guest. And Sir Patrick makes a fantastic choice here as he leans toward Riker and raises an eyebrow like, well, what's it going to be, Bill? Are you going to let me beam down or not?
Well, he's very against the idea because Lutan is obviously a liar.
Another little sprinkle of comedy, Riker says to Picard. If you get hurt, I will put you on report.
If you die, I'll kill you. Yeah. So Picard and Troy, they've beamed down to this planet and they're welcomed by Lutan. And Lutan is accompanied by a woman and he introduces her as his first one, Yarina, which is his wife. I get the sense that they probably have multiple wives.
Yeah, I was feeling the bad kind of polygamy, the patriarchal, fundamentalist LDS, patriarchal polygamy. Yeah, he got lots of women. Yarina is played by Carol Selman, who doesn't seem to have much of a stacked body of work in acting. She didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember. She didn't seem familiar to me at all.
Mm-mm.
Picard asks to see Lieutenant Yar to make sure that she's okay. And Lutan says, well, she'll be returned to you tonight at the banquet I have arranged in your honor. But Picard just wants to see her right now. And Lutan brings her. He says, go, yes, bring Lieutenant Yar. But I find it odd. He's so patronizing and manipulative. He says, I find it odd that a man of your experience has such difficulty in understanding ordinary politeness. You fucking kidnapped someone and he's got to be polite to you. I get the whole culture thing, but it's just, it's such a stupid game.
Yeah. Yeah. They're making a big deal about this, like, when in Rome, like, we're in this people's culture. And so we have to respect it and follow it. And respect for other cultures is a topic that I think we should put a pin in for our themes at the end.
Lutan's hope is that Picard will ask for Lieutenant Yar tonight in front of everyone. And it's a matter of honor because to them, honor is everything.
There's so much fucking honor in this first season. You have the Klingons who are all honorable and now these people who are all about honor and We're about to meet some more aliens that are supposedly all about honor. There's just so much fucking honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Picard is going to have to pretty please with a cherry on top in front of God and everybody in order to get her back. So they bring her in, and it seems like she's been treated well, but she seems like she's been putting up a fight too, because she makes an offhand comment about like they're getting tired. She's wearing them down. And
That's
with
typical Tasha.
and with her safety reassured, they retire.
There are preparations to make.
What would have made things worse, and I'm glad they didn't do this at least, was what I would have expected them to do in TOS was to change her wardrobe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Into something like revealing and sexy.
Mm-hmm. They would have put her in the attire of their people.
Mm-hmm. Or something like that.
Yeah.
They did not. And I'm glad they did not do that. They left her in her Starfleet uniform.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least there's that.
At dinner, it becomes very obvious that this whole honor code bullshit will be the linchpin of a successful treaty between them. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but we're back on paint the soundstage walls reddish orange again. And everyone is gathered watching a juggler perform, and they're all clicking these little drumsticks together as Tasha is led into the room. Urena is seated at Lutan's right hand, and Tasha takes her place at his left. Picard stands up and starts speechifying. You've given us safety and gifts, and now, pretty pleased with a cherry on top, may we please have Tasha back. And Lutan seems pretty impressed with himself here. Not everyone in their leadership was on board with this whole, like, let's approach the Federation and do a treaty thing. And during that, the camera cuts over to Hagon briefly to communicate he was one of those, maybe, who resisted this Federation stuff.
Mm.
But Lutan's pleased with how Picard has handled their honor code and happy to offer their vaccine. But now that it's come down to it, he just can't let Tasha go. He's got to have her for himself.
Ugh. That's just double cross. But his rules were, you have to ask for her back. You need to grovel.
Yeah.
Grovel, bitch. Doesn't mean I have to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then Picard reminds him of his code of honor, and what he's doing now, you are committing an act of war.
Lutan says it's not an act of war, it's an act of love. And he wants Lieutenant Yar to become his first one. But he's already got a first one, and she jumps to her feet.
Is pissed.
P-I-S-S-T.
Yeah. She's outraged, and she's like, oh, no, you don't, motherfucker. And she's like, I challenge your right of supersedence, whatever that means. And she challenges Yar to a fight to the death. And of course, Picard is now outraged, and he vehemently refuses. Then Lutan jumps up and says, well, then your treaty is null. You're not going to have a treaty. No vaccine. No Lieutenant Yar.
Back on the D, Riker's log notes that they've been made aware of this previous scene and that they are scanning Lutan's compound, seemingly unnoticed by the Ligonians. So they're snooping around undetected with sensors, I guess.
Inquiry. Snoop?
Next, we're in the quarters that the Ligonians have provided Tasha, and I think the writers did Tasha so dirty here, and Troy too, for that matter. I did not like this exchange.
Yeah, this is so weird. I don't know. Yeah, this whole episode, Picard and Troy they get to at least come and check on her. She's on the floor stretching, like she's about to kick some Ligonian ass or something. And Picard asks her if she had any idea, or any inkling that Lutan wanted her as his first one. And of course she didn't. She didn't know anything about that. But then Troy, her friend, kind of does her dirty. And Troy senses her feelings and it sort of exposes her there, saying that, well, weren't you a little bit thrilled when, he said he wanted you? And she's like, well, yeah, of course. He's a very attractive man and everything. But hey, wait a minute. You tricked me.
Yeah, I just didn't like that at all.
And I don't see what her admitting that, how that.
Were they trying to say that Troy thinks that maybe Tasha is too into this idea, that she's not against it on principle, that maybe she does? I don't know. I just did not like it.
Well, yeah, so Troy just basically made her admit, yeah, sure, I find the guy attractive.
Right.
Which
And who wouldn't?
pretty,
Like
yeah.
hot, oiled up muscle guy hitting on me. Of course I
But
enjoyed it, but
that doesn't mean I want to be his wife and
yeah.
and live on a planet and be a concubine. No.
Picard feels like they're all being manipulated in some way, and Troy thinks how much easier this whole situation would be without the Prime Directive.
The Prime Directive. How often have you broken it?
See, the Prime Directive has many different functions.
The Prime Directive
There's more what you'd call guidelines than actual rules.
It's a very interesting proposition. Let me think it over.
Now, this came to my mind a lot earlier when they demoed the holodeck for Lutan and Hagon. We've been led to believe that this is a less advanced civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, they have transporters. Do they have warp drive? Is showing them the holodeck a violation of the PD?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I didn't get the sense that they had ships of their own. They haven't left their planet.
Yeah.
But they have, how did they get transporter? Where are they
Yeah.
going to transport to?
Around a planet, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. There were some holes. We're poking holes, man. Poking holes.
On the bridge, Riker's got a message from Starbase 14, and he has to ask Dr. Crusher to translate, I guess, because it's in medical shorthand or something.
This didn't make any sense either, but apparently the infection rate is out of control and it's increasing at a more rapid rate than they anticipated. And so now there adds a little bit of drama of, okay, now we really have to get the vaccine. And then they phone down to the surface and tell Picard that.
I have this in my notes for later, but I'm going to bring it up now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that this would have been an expensive ask. I wanted to see a shot or two of the people being ravaged by xenopolychlamydia. It's the old rule in visual.
What does it look like?
Who knows? But like, it's the old rule in visual storytelling: show, don't tell. And in this episode, they tell us a lot about how bad this STD is and how all these millions of people are suffering and dying. Show it to me. Like, that's a cheap cutaway. Redress a set, throw some ham on some faces so they look diseased or whatever.
Ham.
Spray on some sweat. You know, like that we did not see it. Took away a little bit from my ability to believe that it was happening, or sometimes even remember that this was an ongoing concern. And I wish they had shown us just one shot. All it would have taken was one cutaway.
Yeah. To get more of a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And just, but other than that, they're just saying, hey, we need this vaccine. And we don't feel it. You're right.
Picard had to step out and take that phone call, and now he's coming back into Tasha's room, and the stakes just keep getting higher. Tasha's confident she can win this challenge, and even Troy is like, yeah, we really kind of need these vaccines. And then it dawned on me, Allie, vaccines are a prevention, not a cure.
Oh.
All these people on Styrus 4 are already infected. They don't need a vaccine.
They're going to die.
They need a cure. They need a treatment. Not a prevention.
Oh, good point. Ooh. You know, we throw that word around
We do.
a lot.
Yeah.
Even today, vaccine is, we get the COVID vaccine. We're still going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the cure. You need to go get you some Paxlovid, not the COVID vaccine. Yeah.
And that is, good one. See, it got me too. Because we throw it around. What's it called when you just use a word? It's incorrect. It's not the Mandela effect, but it's something else.
Yeah.
But anyway, we do it a lot.
Anyway, Troy argues in favor of going along with this whole thing and says something I didn't remember that I don't know that we ever come back for. She says, Betazoid blood is also practical. That's not a species trait that carries forward, is it? That betazoids are practical?
No.
So that was a one-off, maybe.
Yeah, that's a terrible choice of words there, I think.
She thinks the odds are in favor of Tasha kicking ass and taking names, but Picard wants more answers first. So they go back to the center place where Hagon is trying to argue Lutan out of this stupid idea too. But they quickly shut up as Picard enters. You know, when you walk into a room and people are talking and then they get quiet real quick, you know? But Picard did overhear some of that conversation, and he comes into this room with a swagger.
You know, to me, it was like he was gonna go talk with the boys in the locker room.
Mhm.
This was kind of like the whole vibe I got from him. He's gonna talk shit with the boys.
Yeah. Like get down on their level in some way.
Yeah,
Like, we're
absolutely.
just the guys talking here.
Yeah, we're talking about the women.
Yeah.
And he does say, you know, it's really a shame you started out by abducting my officer because I really like the hospitality you've got here. But Lieutenant is like, I'm in the grip of forces you don't understand. And you know, you remember Blazing Saddles?
I haven't seen it in a million years.
Oh, but you remember the scene where Cleavon Little is like, where are the white women at? You know?
Yes.
I kept thinking about this.
Oh my God.
Because, you know, that whole trope about black men going after white women.
Yeah.
But the whole time I'm like, where are white women at? Anyway, Lieutenant's in the grip of something that Picard doesn't understand.
And the camera pushes in on Picard, and there's a little thought bubble that comes out with a picture of Beverly, like, playing with her hair.
Beverly. He's like, some of it he understands because she's, you know, obviously lovely. And Lieutenant thinks that Captain doesn't have needs and feelings. He's like, well, I do, but in his position as Captain, you know, he doesn't really think about that as much. But Picard is just like, why, if you love Tasha, why would you allow this fight to the death to happen? And Lieutenant just puts up his hand. Hey, it's not me. It's Urena. I'm just a spectator. Urena is the one that did the fight to the death.
Picard's conversational swagger here gets the boys to reveal that Lieutenant is a man of great importance, but maybe not a man of great wealth, because in this society, women are a currency and they own the land, remember? So that's the deal. Lieutenant loses nothing, regardless of who wins the challenge.
It's a win-win, yeah, for him. And this was the thing that pissed me off was like, yeah, in the code of honor, as Lieutenant mentioned, protects him like a magic cloak. He's good no matter what. Guess who loses? The women.
Oh, isn't it interesting to consider a society whose laws were written specifically for the benefit of the men who were in power and who wrote those laws? I wonder what that would be like.
Oh, I don't know. Gosh.
Yeah.
So Picard says, you know what? I will go ahead and order Lieutenant Yar to fight, and may your cloak bring you all you deserve, bitch. There was an unspoken bitch.
Troy, I'm your friend and you tricked me.
No idea what the purpose of this was.
This is levity. I believe this.
I guess
this is time for a little levity in an otherwise very tense episode. I mean, we have people dying of xenopolychlamydia. We have this code of honor bullshit.
Stolen.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So Data drops by Geordi's bachelor pad to find him visor off, using some futuristic gadget to shave his face. And Data's like, what the hell, man? I gave you a razor that I adjusted to perfect efficiency. Why aren't you using that one? And this is really like the first friendship scene between these two that we get, isn't it?
I guess a little bit. I mean, there's a little banter in the previous two episodes,
they're like dropping by each other's quarters now and, you know, just checking in on my buddy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Shaving here is a metaphor for Data's struggle with humanity. Perfect efficiency isn't the point. To Geordi, shaving is an art form, and he explains that a lot of things can be too efficient for humans. And Data's like, I wasn't too efficient for Tasha Yar.
Oh my.
So here we are, back to Data's struggle to understand humanity, and he's been doing some studying, particularly around the idea of humor. And as he starts to tell a joke, Geordi tries to escape, which I thought was big fun. Geordi's like, oh no, get me out of here.
No, not again. Because he's trying to understand humor. And then he immediately starts, a man goes to the store to buy some kidneys. I mean, I didn't even think this joke was funny.
No, it wasn't. No, but it's the classic thing of comedy, like stand-up comedy, where often the joke, the actual joke, the punchline isn't the punchline.
Isn't funny.
And
yeah, that's not the funny thing.
That Ron White is great at that. That he just he'll tell a story and there will be 16 jokes in it, but the real joke isn't until like the one, like, and it comes back at the end and ties the whole thing up. And you're like, holy shit, that was great. I'm getting a scooter.
But these aren't even funny. So
No.
he goes,
A man goes to a store to buy some kidneys.
Oh, no.
He says to the shopkeeper, "I'd like a pound of kittles, please." The shopkeeper says, "You mean kidneys, don't you?" The man says, "I said kittles. Diddle I?"
I
It's so stupid. It's so dumb.
it's not fun. And the Forge is honest with him. He's like, this joke is too old and you didn't even tell it well.
But then the actual punchline is Data saying,
Perhaps it is you, Geordi. Including the kittles, I've told 662 jokes, and you have not...
Including the kittles. Now, see, that's funny.
It was not meant as a joke. The tongue slip.
Oh, boy.
and that's when Geordi loses it. That's when the humor hits.
Because he made a slip of the tongue. And yeah, humor is hard to explain. Like
Yes.
if it's like irony, and how do you explain that to someone, who isn't human? How could you possibly explain that?
Yeah.
Anyway, they get interrupted by Riker asking both of them to report to the transporter room to go down to the planet.
I just thought that scene was like a really excellent way to start coloring in the lines of their friendship that
Yeah.
has been established. And again, like in the third episode that we're getting this much relationship and character development, I think that was the magic success.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the sprinkle. It's the sprinkle between the chaos, the
Mhm.
sprinkle of this between the chaos that made me love all of them so much.
Meanwhile, Picard and Troy are waiting for the away team to beam down, and they're standing next to a wall filled with various weapons when Geordi and Data arrive. Picard puts them on the task of studying the Ligonian weapons, analysis of their combat capabilities, durability, composition, weakness of material, anything they can find that could help Tasha in this fight to the death with Lutan's wife. And Data leans over to Geordi and says, "Is this human joke number 663? This is no joke, Data. This is real life, bro." Although Picard agrees it might seem like a joke, given that we have all of this power and we're not using it. We could just power our way through, take the vaccine, take Tasha, and fuck off and be done with this place, if not for that damned Prime Directive.
Right.
Picard says that the customs here, compared to Starfleet standards, are the same kind of pompous, strutting charades that endangered humans a few centuries prior, and he argues that humans evolved out of that barbarism because no one else imposed their own standards on humanity. You hear that, Q, you nosy little fucker?
Riker's just making a log that they're continuing their probing of the planet and trying to figure out Ligonian technology. But the captain's made it clear that he wants Tasha Yar beamed immediately to safety if her life should become endangered.
Assuming that the rules of engagement would even allow for that. But okay. So they're on the bridge, and one of the aft stations, they've got this rudimentary map of the compound on screen. Like an old video game that, you used to play, and there's little dots moving around it's very Pac-Man-like, but it shows where the away team members are on the planet. So that answers, I guess, a little bit of the question of, can we just scan for Tasha and beam her out? Maybe not. Maybe this is where it's beginning to develop. Maybe they're building that technology while they fly the ship.
Back in Tasha's room on the planet, Tasha requests a meeting with Urena, and it turns into some sort of standoff. Urena comes in and says, "I've agreed to this meeting. I don't see a point to it, but you've accepted the challenge. What's done is done." But Tasha sort of does a flex here. She's like, "Look, Starfleet training is the best training there. It's the best training there is, And I can't do it like you," but she's like, and she's almost like saying, "Look, you don't have a prayer of winning against me." But Urena assures her that even though these types of fights to the death don't happen very often, she assures her she's ready. And Tasha also tries to convince her that she doesn't want Lutan. She doesn't love him, and she's fighting for the vaccine. And Urena is like, "Well, how could you not want him? How could you not love him? Everybody does. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to kill you.
So you know what this scene reminds me of? I was into wrestling back in the 80s when the WWF was the king, not WWE. WWF was the shit, right?
I didn't know the difference.
Hulk Hogan, Junkyard Dog, Jake the Snake, Hillbilly Jim. I can't believe I'm still able to rattle all these names off. But you remember before a match, they would like do these videos back and forth where they're like, "Oh yeah, brother, I'm gonna kick your ass," and that's what this reminded me of. Was that shit talking before the fight?
Yeah, there was a little soap opera going on backstage of "You stole my girlfriend." Or something stupid that they make up. But this was But yeah, she says, "I'm gonna kill you," and she reminds Tasha that you're on my world now.
Picard and Troy are talking out their feelings. Troy confirming that there are no loopholes to be found here if they want to get the vaccine. When Data and Geordi come in, their analysis of the weapons is that they are surprisingly flexible, durable, and deadly, and Data adds, and light, as if they were made for women to use. You know, women be weak and all.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Data.
I know. No, it's not Data. It's Star Trek.
It's the writers.
It's the writers.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Fuck you, 1980s.
Late 1980s writers that are stuck in TOS mode.
Some of these weapons also still have like traces of blood on them and some traces of poison, which they have analyzed to be an alkaloid base, super duper lethal.
And so Picard was also asking Data about their analysis of these links of metal in the yard, and I was assuming they meant that
the jungle gym playset?
Yeah. Yeah, so that it's like a multi-level, jungle gym. And Data goes in hard with the facts about, oh, well, if joined together, they'd make a rectangle or square enclosing 127 square meters. If put end to end vertically, they would make a whole 44 meters high. But Tasha comes in and she informs the crew that she couldn't talk Urena out of it. She loves Lutan, and she thinks for whatever reason that Tasha loves him too. So she's blinded by jealousy. Tasha did absolutely nothing but be kidnapped, and suddenly she's the enemy. And this is this age-old thing that we women do to each other, is that when we're being pit against each other by men, we automatically hate each other. And we haven't even done anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're always being manipulated like that.
Fucking men. There's a moment here, though. So she comes in talking about like, oh, Urena really loves Lutan, and she thinks I love him too. And a camera cuts over to Data. And Data pulls up a memory from last week when he and Tasha smashed, and he says, "Most interesting. Do you love him? I mean, because I really thought we had something going."
She's like, "Don't be stupid." No, she says, "Of course I don't."
Data, I'm only going to tell you this just once. It never happened.
Riker calls down and relays some of the movement he's seeing up on the battle map. People are starting to gather outside in the jungle gym playset, and 3 of them are heading for your location. This has to be the invention of this like ability to scan and single out people and stuff. Like, I think this is the episode where that becomes a reality. And I didn't remember that was never not a thing. I thought that's just always been a thing, that they've been able to do that. Sure enough, Hagon and 2 guards enter carrying 4 large red boxes, her weapon in various sizes, and Tasha opens one of the boxes. And as she goes to pick it up, Geordi warns that the spines are poisoned. So it's this metal glove, like literally throwing down the gauntlet. It's this metal glove with this one large pickaxe beak-looking claw thing, and then all of these spiny little needles pointing off of it.
And Tasha's like, "Okay, now you're speaking my language."
Yeah.
So she's like, I understand. And of course, LaForge just says, "Don't touch the spines and you could kill yourself." Then they hear noise from the outside of, and then they go to the window and they see Maria Sharapova playing tennis. They see Urena practicing on this multi-level surface with the poles, the jungle gym, and they get a sense of what she's in for.
On this Jungle Gym playset, these laser lights go off like that circle the ring, like the wrestling ring, right? But then there's also ones that shoot up from the surface of the planet, and we see this from like space point of view, and these are like super powerful fucking lights or whatever they are, because you see them way out into space. And it just, the comedian in me wanted the camera. Lower Decks would have pulled back and pulled back and pulled back and pulled back to see these comedically long shoots of light coming off of this planet.
Yeah.
Most interesting. Do you?
Of course I don't, Data.
Another Riker's log summarizing the episode, and he mentions that he doesn't really understand Picard's plan. Wes arrives on the turbo lift, and Riker offers him to sit at ops again to help out.
His face lights up so much. It's the sweetest thing. I just adore Wesley.
Yep.
He's amazing.
He gets a lot of shit as a character in this series, but and on rewatch, I think I'm appreciating him even more.
Yeah, definitely on rewatch. I think the first time, I think I took the attitude that the characters took, and that he's annoying, but he's not. He's the sweetest kid, and he's super smart. And now I'm feeling bad for how he's been treated.
Well, and I'm not. I'm a podcaster, not a film studies major, but there is a tropey character, Mary Sue, in storytelling in television that is this character that seemingly has all of the knowledge and all of the ability far beyond the people who have actually trained to be able to do it. And that's kind of a tropey character. And I think he got saddled with that a lot. But I'm liking him more and more now.
Me too.
Yeah. And as a kid, and I'll make this case many, many times, and as a kid who grew up watching Doogie Howser, this idea of the boy genius, like we all wanted to be that kid when I was a kid. We all wanted to like just have the knowledge and not have to work for it and just be,
just be smart.
Yeah.
Just happen to be a genius.
Yeah.
Because
yeah. I think we all like looked up to those characters. In the transporter room, Data beams in, confirming with the transporter operator that he wasn't seen leaving the planet.
How would they know?
Exactly.
How the fuck would they know if anybody sees
their little
them?
battle map? There weren't many dots nearby, I guess.
I don't know.
Riker and Crusher enter, and Data explains that the captain didn't want to risk a phone call being intercepted, so that's why he beamed up. He's here to brief them on Picard's plan. On the planet, Picard, Troy, LaForge, and Yar are led out into the yard, and Picard advises her to stay alive, and they'll hope to do the rest. And then, ding, 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 Star Trek fight!
Well, Hagon stands up. He speaks for Luton. He's like, the rules are known. Let combat continue until there's a victor. It will not be interrupted. And he claps his hands and let the Star Trek fight begin. So Tasha and Urena, basically they dance around this multi-level platform. They're swiping at each other and swinging on the poles. And the poles are sometimes give an electric shock.
What I thought was lasers initially now look like fluorescent light bulbs.
Yeah.
Up close, when you get up close.
The long fluorescent light bulbs. And I didn't understand sometimes shock them but other times they could swing around on it. Anyway, there was no rhyme or reason to that. But Urena is going on attack mode and Tasha's doing a good job of fending her off. But at one point, Tasha, I guess, pushes her and her weapon, Urena's weapon, flies off into the audience. And I guess they wanted to just demonstrate how the poison works.
Yeah.
So it flies off and hits the guy in the stomach. And they stop just momentarily to return the weapon. And then this poor guy just fucking dies. I mean, just fucking dies.
Oh my god! They've killed
the Ligonian.
You bastards!
So the fight restarts, and Tasha seems to be on her back, not in a great position to fight, but she's able to kick Urena again, and as she falls back, Hagon stands up. Careful, Urena. And that also gets Lieutenant's attention.
He's really rooting for, I mean, it's been obvious to us that Hagon really has a thing for Urena, but he can't say anything because he's the number 2.
Some more fighting, and finally Tasha has her chance. There's an opening, and she hits Urena in the back with her glove, and down she goes.
Oh my god! They've killed
my first one, Yarina.
you bastards!
But Tasha jumps on top of her, and they're both Amok timed to the Enterprise, where Beverly is waiting with a hypo spray to save Urena's life. But it doesn't seem to be working. They may be too late. Back planet side, Luton is clearly pissed off, but Picard's like, we followed your rules. We followed your code. Fight to the death. You saw the final blow. You know how your poison works. You know that she's dead. So we followed all your rules.
And Hagon reminds him, hey, remember, now you've got all of her land and her wealth now, so at least that hasn't been lost.
Luton doesn't seem as disturbed about that. It's Yar he wants, after all. And Picard says he won't stop her from becoming his first one if that's what she wants. You see, while it is not always the case, particularly in the 2020s, our code of honor states that women have bodily autonomy.
Sometimes.
Jesus.
It's funny that they never, ever asked Yar.
Yeah, what do you want to do?
They never said anything about her choice until now.
Mm-hmm.
I would have blown up the planet and fucking took Yar and like, fuck these guys. But anyway.
Riker calls down asking about the vaccine, and now that the honor code has been satisfied, Luton is willing to give them the vaccine. So the medical team will beam down and collect that, and Picard orders 5 to beam up. Picard, Troy, LaForge, Luton, and Hagon, and they're a little surprised by this last-minute plot twist.
Picard does some body snatching of his own.
And they're even more surprised as Picard, Troy, Luton, and Hagon arrive on the bridge, and Riker directs them to the observation lounge, where they find a very much alive Urena. And Luton is PISS. This is a violation of the agreement. There's no treaty. There's no vaccine. You sneaky fuckers. You tricked me. We're done here.
But au contraire, mon frère, Picard assures him that the challenge was carried out because she actually died, even though Crusher revived her. But Luton is like, no, she's living. She's alive. But Crusher's like, I'm a physician. I saw her die. And if you doubt the poison, why don't you test it on yourself? Which I love.
I love that so much. Yep. Yeah, she's like really fucking tired of people withholding life-saving medicine for stupid reasons.
Exactly. And then Picard says, we can provide records and proof that she actually died. And I love that Urena finally speaks up and she says, well, and at the instant of my death, a mating agreement dissolves. My land back, bitch. If my land comes back to me. And Luton accuses her of, this is witchcraft to discard a male in this manner. But what about what you've done this whole episode? She's like, it's less painful than what you've been fucking around doing to me this entire episode. She goes over and she takes off the necklace, which I guess is the symbol of marriage or union. And then she gives it to Hagon. She's like, even when I was fighting, you were calling out for me. And he asked her to be his first one, but she's basically proposing marriage too at the same time.
Yeah.
And she's giving him all her lands and all her goods.
Tasha looks at Luton with pity and says, how sad for you. You lost everything. And he replies, I have my honor. And she's like, what a waste.
Urena's like, do you want him? She's like, nope.
Nope. No. Okay. So Urena asks Tasha if she wants him. And I do not like the choices that were made here because it seems like Tasha is fighting off the strong attraction to him.
Yeah.
That I think would have been long dissolved by this point in the episode.
She should have just said no.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she's like, no, there would be complications.
And I don't know what she meant by that.
Nah, just nope. He's your man. I do not want him. Goodbye.
It was the 80s, though.
Yeah.
So they weren't as, they were a little bit more modern thinking, but still not there yet.
Yeah. Urena says, fine, then I'll take you as my number 2. Get in line, bitch. And Hagon says, well, as you see, Captain, you may excel in technology, but not in civilized behavior. This is civilized?
Yeah.
And maybe, okay, civilized to their culture. And that's the whole point of this
To
thing,
their
is that
culture.
we're in different cultures.
We're having a hard time. I'm having a hard time accepting. I get it. This is their culture. It's really hard for me to accept.
Yeah, agreed. Picard steps off the turbo lift onto the bridge for chair chat and finds Data standing up at the horseshoe next to Tasha. And he's like, what? Ugh, fucking Wesley. Wes gets out of the ops chair, as Riker explains. He was just watching the station for me, and I completely forgot about it. And Picard actually thanks Wesley for manning one of the bridge stations and promises there will be more chances.
They're totally breaking that rule that they set at the beginning.
Yeah. No
Riker
kids
was
on the bridge.
No kids on the bridge. Riker was supposed to keep him from being a dick
Yeah.
and keep the kids away from him, basically. And Riker's not doing that.
Picard asks why they haven't left orbit yet, and Riker orders a course for Styrus 4, Warp 3. I thought there were millions of people dying horrible deaths from xenopolychlamydia. Warp 3?
Yeah, don't know.
Off to our next adventure slowly, I guess.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'll be glad to be relieved of this cargo.
Me too.
It is done, and perhaps just as well.
Yeah, but you know, I learned something today.
I sincerely hope that this is the last time that I find myself here.
You just don't get it, do you, Jean-Luc? You see, of all the species, yours cannot abide stagnation. Change is at the heart of what you are.
That is the exploration that awaits you.
Not mapping stars and studying nebula,
But charting the unknown possibilities of existence.
Oh my God, I hate this episode. And again, Your Honor, I submit this redress of Amok Time as another piece of evidence that TNG Season 1 equals TOS Season 4. This is, do you remember in Amok Time when Spock and Kirk had to fight to the death and then they beamed him up and save him? Yeah. Same fucking story.
Yeah, except without all the kidnapping and racism.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, in that way, Amok Time was a better story.
I agree.
I wish that this episode had centered more on how withholding a life-saving medicine over this ye oldie timey code of honor bullshit is inhumane. They took the we have to play by another culture's rules route, which I guess starts to flesh out the Prime Directive a bit more. But what if the challenge was, how do we help this culture understand and agree to this greater good by working within their cultural framework? That would have been a better episode for me.
Right. But like you said, they didn't really do anything, any imagery other than a couple of sentences here and there to say, hey, we need a vaccine, people are dying, but they didn't do anything to show the urgency at all. And it was all about Tasha Yar not becoming his number one or whatever. That was more the story than the vaccine.
Another thing that we have to think about in storytelling is, like, if the point is that at the end of the story, nobody has learned anything, why did we do the story? And so at the end, did the Ligonians learn anything about their dusty old rituals holding their society back? No.
No.
At the end of this episode, the men step in line behind the woman, and they will continue with this code of honor bullshit as if none of this episode ever happened. There's no growth at all. And on the other side, for the Federation's part, for the Starfleet's part, I don't see any learning or growth there either.
The whole point was to find a loophole. You know, there was find a loophole in their honor system so that we can escape. But also, there was no effort made on the Ligonians' part to learn our culture. It was all about their culture.
Yes.
But you've got two cultures coming together. And it was all about, oh, you've got to do, this is our culture. You need to live by our honor code. And no mention of, well, we have an honor code too.
Well, and they were using the leverage of, we have this vaccine you need really badly, so you have to play our game.
Yeah, and that's, they were holding the vaccine hostage. So, and that's like not what, how is that honorable though?
The first conversation should be, how is it honorable to withhold a life-saving vaccine for any reason? Period. If you have a life-saving medication that can save others, we just give it. period, the end.
Right.
We don't have to run through the fucking insurance companies and make sure that you have coverage and pay your fucking copay and all of that kind of bullshit. This is the future of healthcare that I would want for humanity. If you need care, you get it, period, the end. That there aren't any roadblocks.
And I know that they're going to run into people and races that are not going to care. They're not going to give a shit whether the Starfleet or the other planets survive or not. And so I guess they had to play their game, but still, I don't know. You're right. Nothing was learned on either side.
Yeah. How does this universe change? How do our characters grow? None of that happens from the beginning to the end of this episode.
Mm-mm.
After I took those notes this morning, I got up and having slept on it, I really started thinking about, what are the put ourselves in the position of the Ligonians. What are the social codes, the social expectations and rituals that we're holding on to today because of their honor or their tradition that are in our way, that we would be best to shed to progress as a species?
Probably a lot. I can't think of right now.
Religion is obviously a big one. Right?
Well, yeah.
We're holding on to a lot of antique ideas simply because it's been that way. Like this is how we've always done it. And those traditions are passed on from generation to generation. And if you can pull yourself out of it and go, okay, but is this not just, is it true, but is it helpful? Is it useful? Are we maturing as a species because of it? Or is it slowing us down? And I'm sure there are a lot of other, all of the isms, the sexism, the racism, the anti-gay sentiment, all of those things that we use to divide are steeped in social expectations that were placed upon us by a patriarchal owner class that we struggle to shed. We fight with that on a daily basis to overcome that. All right, we got a death on the board.
Oh, man.
And what an unfortunate death of this poor fella.
I know, he was like nobody. And he didn't even need to die. It was just a show. It was sad.
We're here together to honor our friend and comrade. We will all find time to grieve for her in the days that are ahead. But for now, she has asked that we celebrate her life with this.
As the crowd gathered to watch Urena and Tasha fight, the unknown Ligonian should have picked a different night. As the poison spike pierced his skin, he didn't last as long as the fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson.
We can handle all the pleasantries later. Now, let's get down to business.
I am willing to pay handsomely for you.
I think you've had a little too much to drink.
Now, what do you know about my money?
Your money?
The money he stole!
You stole his money?
Those vouchers I gave you were every bit as good as Latinum.
You can spend Latinum almost anywhere. Those vouchers are only good at your bar.
And of course, as always, we want to thank our top patrons, our founding admirals. A special thank you to Russell, Allie, Peter, Sarah, Sherry, and Bruce. Thank you all so much for supporting the show.
Well, hello there, interstellar wanderers. Guinan here, your favorite purveyor of wisdom and cosmic cocktails. Now, I've got something to tell you about a little podcast called Humanist Trek. I know. I usually deal with real-life space-time drama at 10 Forward, but this one's worth a listen. You see, they're on a mission. Laughter, exploration, and all that jazz. First off, leave a review, share the love like it's a secret ingredient in a warp core breach. Spread it around, and let the galaxy know what's what. For those feeling a bit more philanthropic and just wanting to splurge some Federation credits, become a patron. It's like having a backstage pass to the holodeck, but better. Early access to episodes, exclusive merch that's cooler than a Ferengi's profit margin, and bonus content like personal logs. Imagine Spock, but funnier. Oh, and did I mention reactions to those very short treks? It's like watching Klingons try to line dance. Pure entertainment. So it's time to join the fleet. Do yourself a favor. head over to patreon.com/humanisttrek. It's the cosmic investment in laughter and the kind of support that makes the universe a brighter place. Trust me, it means a lot to them. And hey, it might just brighten up your journey through the stars too. Cheers.
Captain, Starfleet Academy is requesting an update on our estimated arrival.
Finalists, please take your seats.
I must admit you have a very fast mind. Once I realized it was a trick question, there was only one answer.
Although only one student will be chosen for the Academy, any of you could easily qualify. Candidates, good luck.
You got called to the superintendent's office. It's a story I'd like to hear.
Becca is back now with the answer to this week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge question for the episode Code of Honor. Remind us again the question.
Which series regular was embarrassed by this episode?
And the answer is all of them, but what
I
we
was going to
said
say all
was...
of them. Every single one of them from what I read.
What did we actually say?
I think I might have said Geordi.
Yeah, I think you said LeVar and I said Denise Crosby.
I was really hoping that you would have written down your answers, but oh well.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
All right.
I mean, you recorded it, so...
Yeah, that's true. This is a very long thing I have to read, so just bear with me. In a 2012 interview, Brent Spiner said, "It was just a racist episode, maybe not intentionally, but it felt that way and looked that way. It was the third episode, so it was fortuitous that we did our worst that early on and it never got quite that bad again." In a science fiction convention in 2007, Jonathan Frakes referred to the episode as a racist piece of shit. He told the audience it was the worst and most embarrassing episode, and one that even Gene Roddenberry would have been embarrassed by. Even Michael Dorn, who was not even in the episode, referred to this episode as the worst episode of Star Trek ever filmed, to the agreement from the rest of the cast and the crowd during a 2013 event at Toronto Comic-Con. And finally, during an Entertainment Weekly interview in 2012, Patrick Stewart referred to this episode and said, "We all felt quite embarrassed." So yes, the answer was everyone.
And we're going to take that win.
Yes, I was going to give it to you.
Yes.
Affirmative.
It was pretty awful, and I felt ick.
Yeah.
I felt dirty. I felt dirty.
Did you feel more dirty watching that episode or listening to me read that poem about the Roman centurion fucking dead Jesus?
God.
Honestly, I felt dirtier watching the episode.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because I did. I felt ick.
Yeah.
I felt more ick watching the episode.
All right. Well, then next week we're going to review Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 5, The Last Outpost. Held captive over an unknown planet, the away teams of the USS Enterprise and Ferengi starships must pass an important inquisition by a mysterious life form known as Portal before they are allowed to continue their journeys through space. What is our question for The Last Outpost?
What swear word was linguistically disguised in this episode?
We know this one. No, that wasn't it.
Yes, we do.
Take it, Allie.
It was merde, which means shit in French.
Yeah. Is it merde or merde?
How did he say it?
Merde.
He would merde.
I don't fucking remember how he said it.
He said merde because in French, if there's an E on the end, you don't always. Actually, there is no E on the end, but you don't pronounce it.
All right.
I took 4 years of French.
All right, well, join us next week then as we collect our points for that question.
Yay!
And
I knew this series was going to be much harder.
If you want to play along with the Starfleet Challenge, you know how to do that. Go out to your social medias, share this episode, use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, and share your answer. We'll pick out a winner. Next time on Humanist Trek, Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 5, The Last Outpost.
Glory to your house.
Make it so, number one.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.